Good evening. Our top story this week. The state of Florida wins a $5 million adoption award for adopting out 3,352 of your stolen kids. In Arizona, the child protective industry wants more money to hire new CPS agents so they can snatch more kids. In Michigan, the legislature considers a bill that would allow faith-based adoption and foster care agencies to deny services to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgendered wannabe parents based on moral grounds, while a lawsuit in Michigan that is challenging the state's registry of child abuse is put on hold pending a decision on a similar case in the state court of appeals. In Missouri, Jackson County has lost track of what's going on with their child protective industry after workers with any experience have recently started quitting in droves, only to be replaced with newly graduated social workers who show up to court without a clue as to what's going on in the case. In New York, a state senator is calling for an investigation into the child protective industry because they failed a 5-year-old to death. In South Dakota, the state is covering the problem of sexual abuse of Native American foster kids. And in Nevada, the child protective industry is planning on starting doing surprise visits on foster parents. In Texas, state officials are demanding more screening of foster parents due to a spike in the number of foster kids getting killed in the state. This after deficiencies were found in one foster home where a little girl who was removed because the parent smoked pot was killed. The United States Department of Homeland Security launched a smartphone app to try to catch predators. And in Tennessee, child welfare officials had to go to court to give a progress update on the reforms that they are supposed to have been implementing. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin is taking shit from gay rights groups over his stance on gay marriage and traditional family values. Russian officials are concerned with the state of at least 26 of their orphans who have been given away to strangers by their American adoptive parents who no longer wanted them after a new scandal known as rehoming comes to light. And an American senator is accusing Russia of stalling on talks regarding the adoption ban of their orphans to U.S. parents, which she says is politically charged, then calls the Russian children's ombudsman an ass. In India, a social worker got beat up while trying to prevent an underage girl from getting married. In Northern Ireland, charities are warning that children in foster care are at risk of sexual exploitation. In New Zealand, a couple gets their kid back after the High Court overturns a child protection care order. And in Scotland, social workers stage a walkout after one of their colleagues was suspended. In Canada, a lawyer is in trouble for telling a social worker that he should shoot her. In Alberta, a foster mother who got 6 years for killing a 3-year-old back in 2007 may just have her sentence doubled if the prosecutor has his way. Ontario lawmakers are set to vote on a bill that would give foster kids who are 16 years or older and are frozen out of the child welfare system the right to access age-appropriate government aid. And Ontario's Ministry of Children and Youth Services has ordered the Chatham-Kent Children's Services to fine-tune the way it operates, including how management and staff document child protection cases, are repaid for expenses, and obtain public services. In Australia this week, a historic inquiry into allegations of child abuse against places of worship, orphanages, community groups, and schools begins, which is including the Salvation Army's admission that they paid out nearly $15 million to child sex abuse victims in its homes, with 50 Salvation officers being named as abusers. Thousands of Australian foster children are living in danger because the child protective industry isn't doing their regular checks as is required under state government standards. And foster parents in Victoria are quitting in record numbers because the child protective industry isn't paying them enough. The government in New South Wales knew damn well that the child protective industry needed more money to hire more CPS agents to snatch more kids, because only 5% of the kids who they could have targeted have been assigned social workers. And an Australian scout leader became a foster parent to a 17-year-old boy who he was grooming, even though dozens of people, including police, knew that he was a pedophile. In England, a charity called Childline aims to visit every primary school in an effort to teach kids how to rat their parents out to the child protective industry. A British social worker called the teenager, quote, a fucking waste of space, end quote, only 3 hours before the kid committed suicide. And a British judge has ruled that the government's drive to speed up adoptions in the country should not outweigh the desirability of keeping natural families together, as children are being removed from their homes way too quickly. A midwife who warned a couple of British foster parents that the baby they were caring for may have been HIV positive is now fighting to keep her job for doing so. A quarter of British social workers say they never have time or opportunity to read serious case reviews that could help them improve their job performances. The head of a British abortion charity says that women are free to abort because they don't like the sex of their child. And the British child protective industry loses a fight to send a real mother to prison because she complained about the forced adoption of her child on Facebook after the case was thrown out due to an administrative error. In entertainment news this week, Modern Family star Ariel Winter's mother accuses her of physical abuse. Charlie Sheen gets his child support payments to the mother who doesn't even have custody of his kids kids cut in half. And in sports, former pedophile foster parent and Penn State football coach Jerry Sandusky is trying to get a new trial. In California, a foster father who killed a 5-month-old is set to take the stand in his own trial. A former employee of a California group home blows the whistle on staff's excessive use of restraints and carelessness with money. In Indiana, a couple is suing their child protective industry after their daughter was raped by multiple men while in foster care. And in Iowa, a 17-year-old pleads not guilty for first-degree murder in the death of his younger foster brother. In Ohio, the trial of a foster mother who is accused of rape is put on hold until November 4th. In Pennsylvania, a CPS agent and her supervisor are facing criminal charges for failing to report a case of child abuse. But of course, that case is dropped against the caseworker who has qualified immunity. And in New York, a 13-year-old foster kid pleads guilty to raping a girl in a library. In Michigan, a mother's group protests outside the Department of Human Services in Lansing to demand that CPS agents stop snatching the kids of licensed marijuana users. This in support of one couple who is fighting tooth and nail for the return of their daughter who was snatched for that very reason. But the judge didn't care what any of them thought and denies custody to the parents and gives the kid to the grandmother instead. In Illinois, an insurance company is suing the foster parents of a kid who started a fire to try to recover the money they paid to a family for damages to their garage. In Ohio, a 2-year-old foster kid died nearly 3 weeks after being pulled from a pool. Washington State won't give a father custody of his child because he is a medical marijuana patient. And in Florida, a woman is attacked by a fake CPS agent. In West Virginia, a real mother is suing the child protective industry after she says that a CPS agent falsely accused her of abusing her son. And finally, tonight in Texas, a grandfather gets an apology from CPS after he complained about having to spend thousands of dollars in legal fees and needlessly wasted hours in court because of ineffective assistance from a Galveston County CPS agent. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.